What's going on, guys? Apathetic here, and today we're going over some tips to help you get the Mountaintop and Recluse. Both these weapons have skyrocketed in utilization since people have discovered what a lethal combination these two weapons are in PvE and PvP. The real sticking point for getting these weapons though comes with having to reach Fabled Rank in competitive, which is 2100 points. So I'm going to cover some tips that will make the difference in your comp games and hopefully help you get over the hump. Let's get into it. Our first tip for getting to Fabled Rank and competitive is doing your research. What this means is, do you understand what the best loadouts are in the game that will allow you to perform as effectively as possible? You may be handicapping yourself with your loadout and not even know it. So for PC, that means hand cannon and shotguns are going to be the most dominant and well-rounded loadout. And for console, I know certainly certain hand cannons are viable, and are you using those viable options on console? This also ties into the choice of super you use. For each class, there are each one very dominant super right now. For Hunter, that's going to be Spectral Blades because of the ability to proc flawless execution and see through walls, combined with the roaming capability of the super. For Titan, you have Bottom Tree Striker, which is basically broken right now. It probably has one of the longest super durations in the game, combined with health regeneration on kill, which makes it a very hard super to shut down. Lastly, we have Bottom Tree Dawnblade, which gives your swords tracking, and similar to Bottom Tree Striker, has an extremely long super duration since kills extend the duration of the super. If you're comfortable with another subclass for each of these characters, that's great. But no, you need to know that you are not using the most optimal loadout, and I can guarantee everyone in comp, as you make your way towards 2100, is going to be using these subclasses because they are doing everything they can to win. And this also extends to exotics. So just listen, comp is not the place to start worrying about your honor and not being cheap and using the things that people are considered, air quotes, cheap. Put on your one-eyed mask or whatever is the best exotic for your class, jump into comp and play to win. And sometimes that means using exotics that typically you wouldn't normally use or feel good about using, but sometimes, guys, we just gotta make it happen. Tip 2 for getting to Fabled is using the buddy system with your team. I know what some of you are saying, but Appa, I don't have anyone to play with. Cool, this tip still applies. Sticking with your team, whether you know them or not, is going to make a huge impact on your ability to win games in comp. Oftentimes people go into comp and yeah, they want to win, but they also care way too much about their individual stats. So what does that result in? They perform well individually in a lot of their matches, but they end up losing a majority of their games because they are constantly out on their own, kind of lone wolfing it. They are rarely in a position to team shot or clean up those kills. Sticking with your team is like having an insurance policy on every engagement you get into. Someone is going to be there to support you in shooting your enemy and allow you to end your engagements faster, or if we lose our engagement, there will be someone there to hopefully clean up our kills. Or even better, if this teammate is generating orbs, it will allow you to be right there to pick them up and get your super that much quicker, which is huge. So find a teammate on your team that seems relatively competent, seems like they know what they're doing, and challenge yourself to float near them. You don't need to be in their back pocket, but just in their general area so that you're putting each other in a position to support each other in those engagements. Tip 3 for getting the Fabled is picking your engagements. And guys, I can't stress how important this is. The biggest thing when I've seen players struggle to get to 2100 points is they're not picking their engagements wisely. They just keep running in the same way, not making an informed decision, so they die, respawn, and repeat. Then before you know it, the game is over. We need to be taking in all the information possible using our radar, the position of our teammates, and choosing when to engage, and always knowing what our escape route is. So if I'm pushing out of cover because I see one person on my radar, but when I come out there's actually 2 people, I know exactly how to get out of that situation and come back and attack from a different angle, and hopefully with a teammate. It's the little situations like this and the decisions we make multiple times a game that make the difference between winning and losing. We don't want to be mindless in how we play. Always be evaluating what's the best way to push, how far out of cover am I going to extend, and what's my way out of here if I start getting team shot. Being intentional around picking your engagements ultimately results in us staying alive, which translates to us building more super energy, getting more kills, and being an overall distraction to the other team. Tip 4, and this one is just the reality of it, guys, and that's playtime and how that ties into learning situational awareness around the different competitive game types. A lot of times we don't spend enough time learning what is the right way to play certain modes within competitive, and that's because we don't have enough experience with them. And I've been guilty of this as well. For example, I've learned that the way I play Clash can't be the same way I play Survival or Countdown. Using a catch-all approach to how you play in competitive will make us actually a huge detriment to our team. So it's important we challenge ourselves on these game types, which are more lives based, to slow things down. And as I mentioned in the previous tip, really pick our engagements carefully and not overextend. And part of learning this is the practice that comes with playtime. So I know a lot of people hate Countdown, myself included, but until it's removed or changed, we need to adapt and practice different scenarios or reflect when we lose a round. What could I have done differently in that situation? The self-reflection combined with playtime is going to allow us to learn quickly how to not allow the same thing to keep happening over and over again. Because if we're not taking the time to learn what could I have done differently in that round of Countdown, to where maybe I could have defused the bomb, or maybe I should have killed this guy first then try to defuse the bomb. All these different scenarios, we need to analyze that so that we're not just going in and doing the same thing over and over again expecting a different result. Tip 5 and our final tip is to play the long game. What I mean by this is don't feel like you need to get to 2100 points in one day. And I feel like this is just human nature, right? We're like, I gotta get there as quick as possible. But what this ends up happening is this is how people get burnt out on comp. And this is something that happens to me and my friends actually all the time. And like we just get in this bad habit. We end up waiting till the end of the season, then just non-stop grind over a couple of days to legend, and by the end of it I never want to play comp again, or I find myself getting very frustrated along the way. By limiting how much you play per day, it's going to keep you fresh, keep you from getting frustrated hopefully, and allow you time to reflect on the games you've played and what you can do differently. So when you start playing comp and you'll say you start losing game after game, you can really feel your frustration boiling over. Take a break, or someday, or maybe it's a day it's not even you're frustrated, you just feel off, your shot isn't as crispy as it usually is, or maybe you feel like your decision making is more delayed, or you're reacting slower, whatever it is. And that's okay, guys, that's okay. That happens to everyone, and those are the days you need to just step back, play some quick play or some PvE, run a raid, I don't know, and revisit comp when your head's in the right place. This will lead not only to more wins in competitive, but will also keep you from going on these terrible losing streaks, and maintain your sanity, because as we all know, and if you're watching this video, we all know how frustrating comp can be. So remember, guys, if you're grinding your way to 2100, trying to get your Mountaintop or Recluse, do your research on the most optimal loadouts, use the buddy system with your team, pick your engagements, put in the time to learn the different game types in comp, and lastly, play the long game and don't burn yourself out in the competitive playlist. If you guys found this video helpful, please like and subscribe as a free way to support me, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.